I'll bet you didn't know New Orleans has the largest World War II museum in America. Or a restaurant so haunted, they keep a regular table for their resident ghost. And that's because when most people hear New Orleans, they think Mardi Gras. And that's too bad, because this city has so much to offer. This guy gets it. Because, yeah, there's a Voodoo museum. Which is why New Orleans has been our family's favorite travel destination for years. So here are the top 10 things in New Orleans we think everyone should experience at least once. Number 10, jazz. We're starting with jazz because this city is where it was invented, actually. And it's everywhere. This is the city where jazz legends like Buddy Bolden, Mahalia Jackson, and Louis Armstrong were born. Creole and European music blended together with African drum beats created the complex rhythms and offbeat accents that define jazz. There was even a jazz band playing in Louis Armstrong Airport when we arrived in the city. Local musicians play in Jackson Square spontaneously throughout the week. And down at Pat O'Brien's on Bourbon Street, you can catch their jazz pianos dueling. I promise you've never felt the soul of jazz until you've experienced it live in New Orleans. Number 9, Jackson Square. This historic park is over 300 years old and sits at the heart of the French Quarter. It dates back to the city's original founding as a French colony, when it was used for military parades and public executions. In fact, many people consider it to be haunted. What you see today is a green space, bordered by colonial architecture and French-inspired St. Louis Cathedral. If you've ever seen pictures of New Orleans, you've seen these spires. At the heart of the park is its namesake.
While you're in Jackson Square, be sure to come and check out the statue of Andrew Jackson. This statue celebrates Andrew Jackson as the hero of the Battle of New Orleans in 1815, though the statue wasn't erected later until 1856. Jackson led a somewhat ragtag group of militia comprised of local men, free black men, Choctaw warriors, and even pirates. And this ragtag group stood against 8,000 British troops who desired to seize control of the port of New Orleans and cripple American trade. By the end of the battle, over 2,000 of the British soldiers lay dead, while Jackson's forces had lost less than 100. Some historians believe his victory and notoriety here are what thrust him into the national spotlight and led to him being able to run for president later.
Number 8, Café du Monde. Just across the street from Jackson Square sits the original French Market coffee stand, Café du Monde, serving beignets and coffee since 1862. Now, a beignet is a French donut cut into squares, and they deep fry it before burying it in powdered sugar.
Café du Monde's coffee isn't like coffee you'll have in other places. It is at least 25% chicory. Now, chicory is a dark root that was used during the Civil War as a coffee substitute or a coffee stretcher. Coffee supplies ran low, supply lines were impacted by the war, and people began grinding up chicory root. It had a similar flavor, but of course it's caffeine free. That chicory root is still incorporated into Café du Monde's coffee to this day, so when you're sipping it, you'll notice a bit of a smokier flavor, a darker, deeper flavor than just traditional coffee, and it's a flavor that I've come to associate almost entirely with this French style of donut. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it, and yes, they do sell canisters of it here on the property if you want to take some back home with you. A little taste of New Orleans in your own kitchen.
Here, you can get your coffee hot, iced, or frozen. This is one of a few restaurants in the city that's open 24/7. And I've never seen it not busy, not even at midnight. Grab a seat at one of their outdoor tables and a server will take your order. Every table has a menu and a massive sugar shaker, and you're gonna want it for that dark, rich coffee. Beignets are ordered in threes, and we recommend getting at least a couple of orders.
Café du Monde makes the best beignets in New Orleans. And yes, I have tried beignets from other cafes around the French Quarter and the Central Business District. Now, Café du Monde's beignets manage to be very crispy on the outside while remaining light, airy, and fluffy on the inside. Something that's popular to do in other restaurants, not this one, is to offer stuffed beignets. They'll put creams, jams, jellies in them. I like it the traditional way, just like a donut, covered in powdered sugar. And they say at Café du Monde, if you don't get a little powdered sugar on you, you're not eating it right.
Number 7, ride the streetcar. Trust us when we say you do not want to rent a car in New Orleans. Parking is expensive and these streets are narrow. Instead, take the streetcar. You'll see these vintage streetcars and artwork of New Orleans almost as often as you'll see the St. Louis Cathedral. In fact, these green cars date back to the 1920s and are even registered as National Historic Places.
Most people don't know that New Orleans is home to the oldest continuously running streetcar line in the world.
Adults ride for $1.25 and students for just 50 cents. And look how darling they are. You sit in vintage wooden seats and benches, and these go all over the city for some excellent sightseeing. Number 6, take a tour.
One of the best ways to experience the city is with a tour, and New Orleans has dozens upon dozens to choose from. If you are coming to the city for the very first time, I recommend one of the haunted history tours. You're going to get lots of local legends, but you're also going to get a great idea of the founding and building of the city and its life here, why it looks the way that it does. If you're here, however, on a repeat visit, I recommend coming here. This is St. Louis Cemetery number 1. It is protected by the Archdiocese of New Orleans because it is a Catholic cemetery in a predominantly Catholic town. The tours are around $25 a person. I do recommend arranging it before your trip. They fill up fast because they keep the tour group so small. And the reasoning for this is they are protecting the cemetery. This cemetery was originally built in 1789 out of a concern for public health following the yellow fever epidemic inside the city walls. The dead were piling high, some say 6 and 7 bodies high, and the stench in the Louisiana heat was unbearable. So they began cemeteries outside the city. Since then, these above-ground tombs have been iconic and are synonymous with New Orleans, and people can't help wanting to leave a little something behind, like trinkets for Voodoo priestess Marie Laveau, or taking a little something with them, like maybe some grave dust or one of the cemetery bricks. So out of concern and preservation, you must be part of a tour. I cannot recommend this enough. And little bonus, there's a pyramid inside here purchased by Nicolas Cage himself. Check it out.
Number 5, eat on Jackson Square. Some of the best food in the city is right here around the square. And let's be clear, we are not talking about famous chain restaurants. Each one of these is uniquely New Orleans. They employ their own world-class chefs who curate their menus to offer elevated local dishes. Think shrimp and grits, but seasoned like a 5-star meal and sprinkled with real crab meat. It is melt in your mouth good. We recommend Muriel's. It sits on the corner of the square, and food isn't the only thing Muriel's is famous for. This is the site of the one and only ghost table, a superstition that dates back over 200 years to when this building was still a family home. Legend has it, the owner lost his home in a card game and retired to the second floor where, tragically, he ended his own life. This restaurant and bar now hold regular seances in that space, where it's believed he met his final end. Guests can, and do, interact regularly with the dearly departed. You can even stop by the ghost table on the first floor while you're there. This is always kept stocked with wine and bread to honor the homeowner and to keep him from breaking too many dishes. And on Sundays, you can even catch their live in-house jazz trio. Our kids loved this, and it was one of our favorite things we did on this visit. Number 4, visit the historic Voodoo Museum. Voodoo may not have begun in New Orleans, but the city gave it its own unique flair. You can find shops on multiple streets in the French Quarter, where you can pay your respects to the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans herself, Marie Laveau. But if you're of a more curious and historic mindset, we recommend visiting the New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum. Now, this is a small building tucked away on Dumaine Street in the French Quarter, and you're probably going to need to pull out your map to find it. But I promise, this is totally worth it. Inside, you are going to learn that voodoo isn't exactly what the movies make it out to be. In fact, it's more about spiritual harmony than it is about cursing people or raising zombies. This religion was shaped by colonialism and heavily influenced by slavery. You'll learn what all goes into a gris-gris bag, and the do's and don'ts of voodoo dolls, and what you might put on your altar, if you ever wanted to make one. This collection was assembled by Voodoo Charlie in 1972, a hairdresser turned historian who wanted to offer an alternative narrative to the horror movies Hollywood was churning out about this largely misunderstood cultural heritage. Number 3, the Audubon Aquarium.
The Audubon Aquarium sits on the Mississippi River as part of the Riverfront Walk and is part of a massive complex that includes both the aquarium and an insectarium. Here, you can pet stingrays and have butterflies perch on your shoulder.
Inside, you'll find the only all-white alligator kept in a U.S. aquarium. This is Chompatulus, named after Tchoupitoulas Street, and he is known as the Ghost of the Bayou. Here, they call him Chomp for short. Chomp is not actually an albino, he is leucistic, which is why he's got little patches of green skin on his nose, as well as blue eyes. Less than 100 of these alligators have ever been seen in the wild. Over in the insectarium, you can view the largest beetles I've ever seen. And stick bugs, and giant cave cockroaches. It is truly the stuff of nightmares in some of these tanks. But nothing will prepare you for the bug buffet in the Insectarium Cafe. Yes, I just said bug buffet.
I have to admit, I've never been in a cafe that serves insects before, and they are calling it the promotion of sustainable food sources. Insects can be high in calcium, they can be high in protein. I've taken a picture, but I'm not going to try it. When I was in Kenya, I was there during what they call termite season, when all of the mounds were hatching out their termites, and it was really common for people to collect the termites and then fry them up and eat them as snacks like popcorn. I resisted then. I resisted now.
All right, time to calm down with a trip through the soothing butterfly garden. That's better. Number 2, the National World War II Museum. You'd never know, looking at it now, that this began as a remembrance of D-Day in one single hallway. Now, it's important to know that New Orleans in the 1940s was the largest producer of the amphibious vehicles used in the invasion of Normandy. It's actually the first thing you're going to see when you walk in the door. And here, when you see photos of the beach landings. That small collection of artifacts grew into what is now a multi-building 7-acre campus, which Congress designated as the official National World War II Museum in 2003.
When you arrive at the museum, the displays actually begin outside, where they have monuments dedicated to the pilots and paratroopers of World War II.
It is filled with pieces donated by soldiers and their family members who participated in the war, as well as their eyewitness accounts of their different experiences. Audio stations are positioned in every exhibit where you can listen to their recorded memories of individual battles and military campaigns. Fair warning, some of them are pretty grim. This is not an edited version of the war. This is exactly what they remember and what they felt in those moments, even some of their regrets. You'll want to set aside your entire day to experience this museum. And don't stress if you don't make it all the way through the first time. In fact, most people don't. We've been twice and still haven't seen it all. Now, there is a special section towards the end dedicated to the Frank family, with a recreation of the attic apartment in which they hid for several years. The museum uses this as a catalyst to pay respects to the victims of the Holocaust, and they've even built small recreations of life in concentration camps. I would consider myself an amateur World War II buff, and I always learn something new when I'm here. Now, before we get to number 1, we'd like to include an honorable mention, and that is the Museum of Death, due to its mature themes and graphic images. In fact, this travel destination might need to come with a warning label.
This is easily one of the quirkiest museums I've ever been to in my life, and one of the most macabre in New Orleans, and that's saying something.
This museum's collection is entirely associated with death, natural or otherwise, and it's filled with items you can't see anywhere else, even online, because they don't allow photography. Now, what you see here is from the gift shop out in front, where you can take pictures.
Inside, you're going to find some original artwork by John Wayne Gacy, as well as an original art piece by Kevorkian and his actual assisted suicide machine, the real one. There's a lot in here that's been donated. The owner is a collector of this kind of thing and has been working on this for decades.
You can also read prison correspondence with some of history's most famous serial killers and view crime scene photographs of infamous killings. I'm a huge true crime junkie, and it was chilling to read letters written and illustrated by David Berkowitz, the son of Sam Killer. I also got to flip through their collection of police photographs from the Manson murders and from the murders of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman. When I say you can't see this anywhere else, I'm not being promotional. It really is one of a kind. And in case you're wondering, Jeff, who does not have 3 separate true crime podcasts downloaded on his phone like I do, took our 11-year-old to grab beignets while I walked through this one. They also had a pretty great time. Number 1, Mardi Gras. Let's be honest, we can't really talk about New Orleans without talking about the year's biggest party. And even though I always tell people this city is so much more than Mardi Gras, it is pretty great. We got to take our kids several years ago and they had a blast. Pro tip: if you're going to the parades with your kids, watch them from the Central Business District. You do not have to be on Bourbon Street to participate in the carnival. Everyone around us was also there with their kids, and we felt very safe. Now, if you can't make it in February, don't sweat it, because down on the riverfront in the Warehouse District, it is Mardi Gras every day of the year. Well, okay, except for Mardi Gras Day, obviously. So I just bought my tour ticket and this is the ticket. How cute is that? So this is how your tour guide knows you paid. You're part of the group. Adorable. After you get your beads, you're going to go through the penguins and into the theater room where they serve you king cake and show you how this whole thing began. You'll learn the history of the floats, from humble garbage trucks pulled by mules to high-powered engines that can hold dozens of performers. They even have retired floats kept in reserve. Now, this is their carving robot. He gets his own room. Artists build float designs on the computer, and this guy carves them out of industrial-grade styrofoam. I am personally really glad that there is plexiglass between me and that. Each of these is still painted the old-fashioned way, by hand, and custom-made to order for each and every crew. And there you have just some of the things we love about this city and why we keep coming back again and again. So have you been to any of these places? And if you have, which one was your favorite? Let us know if we missed anything or what we should visit next time in the Crescent City.